So we've all been there. You open up a new project and... you just can't think of what to do. I've been in this position countless times and have developed some methods to get through it. Here are my 10 favorite methods and how you might be able to use them. Method 1. When I'm out of ideas, sometimes I let a spinning wheel tell me what to do. There's this website called Pickerwheel.com where I have set up a whole bunch of prompts that the wheel can randomly select. Prompts like, go to 7/8, use polychords, use a 12-tone row as a walking bass line, and best of all, use the lick. This actually lets me composing a string quartet with the lick as its main theme. It was performed live for my graduate degree recital. I also have different spinning wheels that focus on different things, like instrumentation, stylistic influence, and ensemble sizes. My second method involves the use of the website random.org. Here, you can generate random number strings. There are several ways that I like to use random number generation when I'm stuck. I can use it as scale degrees for a melody, use it as a pitch set and create neat harmonic colors out of it. You can use it to create rhythmic patterns, and even use it to determine the measure structure of a phrase or an entire piece. RNG can lead you down some pretty neat paths. My third method is complete randomness. Something fun can be to use randomness. I like playing random notes into a few instruments and then randomly copy and paste those things around the score. You might get some surprising combinations that you hadn't previously thought of. This can be augmented by applying rules to the material, like playing random notes that conform to a specific scale, chord, or rhythm. This ties nicely into my fourth method, procedural music. This is where you use mathematical rules to determine how you compose. This concept is influenced by a combination of minimalism and video game music. The most rudimentary form of this is to compose little one-measure-long snippets or cells for each instrument. It's recommended to have all of these cells fit into the same chord, key, or tone set. Then, I use the random number strings discussed earlier to distribute the cells across the piece. An example of this kind of music is this. You can further develop these rules by putting each cell into different categories like melody, bass, and chords. If this fascinates you, I made an entire video on this idea of procedural music, and you can find a link to it in the description. Once you have all of your elements scattered, you can remove the bits you don't like and build a piece on top of what's left, or even just keep the piece as it is. Method 5. Loops. If you're a lazy f*** like me, you will love loops. Sometimes it's helpful to just lay down some loops to get a basic idea going. Mix and match them from different instruments, styles, and libraries until you have something you think is cool. You can then remove them and replace it with your own material, or keep the loops and build on top of them. Or if you want to be real crazy, you can try to write a piece using nothing but loops. It's actually a lot harder than it sounds to make a decent piece with only loops. Method 6. Tell a story. Do not underestimate the role of storytelling in music. Pretty much all of my music follows some sort of storytelling. Take the basic structure of a story, exposition, rising action, climax, etc., and use that to structure your piece. You can take this further by writing your own story, or using someone else's story, or even have ChatGPT write a story for you. Storytelling can add a whole new dimension to your music, and this leads into my 7th method. Score a film. I mention this in a vain attempt to justify my master's degree in film scoring. Storytelling may be important in my music, but visuals are essential. Sometimes I like to import a scene from a movie into my DAW session. Then I create markers for all the moments that I want the music to line up with, what I want the music to hit, when I want to change, etc. Then I get rid of the movie and use those markers as an outline for the structure of the piece. When you follow a structure like this, you will be amazed at just how many different places you can go within a single piece. Method 8. AI. A fun way to get some ideas flowing is to go to one of those AI music generators and have it come up with something. AI can be pretty janky, and that can take you into strange new directions. I once asked for a fantasy piece and caught something for steel drum, erhu, harp, and 3 tubas. I never would have thought of something like that myself. I then started composing a new piece with that ensemble and expanded the instrumentation from there. Once the AI spits out something you find interesting, you can take it and expand on it, use it as a reference, or an example of what you don't want to do. I once took an AI-generated melody and turned it into a string quartet that was performed live during my graduate degree recital. Method 9. Improvise. Much like the randomness I discussed earlier, improvisation can be the source of some very interesting ideas. I like to open up my DAW and record myself improvising for anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes at a time. I then listen through it and pick out the bits that interest me, and this becomes a sort of bank of themes and ideas that I can pull out of at a later point. Alternatively, you can just take your improvisation and add some accompanying instruments like a synth pad or strings. Furthermore, you can improvise on top of a drum loop, or some kind of groove, or even a drone. Eventually, you'll find something that you like, and will be able to take things away from there. And lastly, Method 10. Listening and reading. Now this seems ridiculously obvious, but I cannot overstate the importance of listening to new music. Try listening to a musician you've never heard of, or a genre you don't like. You may find some surprising inspiration from that. I have a whole network of playlists on one of my YouTube channels, each dedicated to a particular genre, keyword, or some other category. I try to add new music to this every day. Score reading is a great complement for this. There's no better way to be inspired than from observing the great masters at work. Lots of public domain scores are available at IMSLP, and more modern things like film scores can be found at places like Omni Music Publishing. And now, for one last bonus tip. Take a break. Seriously, we're not automatons. Sometimes our brains just need to rest for a while. There's no shame going off to watch TV or read or take a walk. I've gotten some of my best ideas while just relaxing. That's actually how I got the idea for this video. So now that you've watched this video, go and try some of these techniques. You may be surprised to hear it pull you into new and unexpected directions. I'm Ethan Taves, and it's a whole new world out there. Let's go exploring.